Well, hello, smiles and hellos to all. Welcome back to the Spiritually Awakened Man channel. This channel is designed to help men to better understand and get the most from their awakening journey. So this particular video is about the difference between a spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening. So let's start with a spiritual experience. What is it? It would be defined as a moment of enhanced awareness of some kind. Something happens. You have a moment, something is surreal. It's different than you've ever seen it before. That would be simply an experience. An example would be transcendental experience, connection to a higher reality of some sort, mystical experience, a unity with something greater, a near-death experience where you're leaving one's physical body, an intense meditative states. You can have an experience, a deep sense of inner space, inner peace, connection to one's spiritual nature. Those would be examples. Usually the impacts of an experience are profound, leading to some personal growth in some form. That would be compared to a spiritual awakening, which is a little different. An experience is something that happens one time. An awakening is something that happens over a long period of time and evolves, and it has several different steps. You could say that it's a shift in overall consciousness that leads to a heightened sense of awareness, a journey towards self-realization, or an opportunity to transcend our limitations and experience a state of inner peace and fulfillment. At the core, the concept of higher self, which would be tapping into our fullest potential, overcoming fears and limiting beliefs, self-discovery, or a range of emotional and psychological changes, increased empathy, greater self-awareness, a sense of purpose or direction. The ultimate goal of a spiritual awakening is spiritual enlightenment, which is a continuous process leading to compassion, wisdom, and love. How's that for a definition? Since this channel is focusing on men's experience, and by the way, women are always welcome to join this channel so they can better understand maybe how their men are processing a spiritual awakening and help them better be able to relate to them, because I think for some reason us men process things quite a bit differently. Anyway, so I started looking online for any evidence that there's a difference between how women experience a spiritual awakening and how men experience a spiritual awakening. And there really isn't. I haven't found a study that specifically talks about it in these terms. I have found a study that talks a little bit about the difference between spirituality from a religion perspective, which really isn't the same. Spiritual awakening is not really a religious experience. There are some commonalities of terms and concepts and cosmos related things that are referred to in most religions, but it's not the same experience that we're talking about. Ultimately, it's the same thing between men and women, though, their experience, except men and women express things differently. Most of the data I find is really of religious nature, as I mentioned. The one study that I found did say awakened from a religious perspective was 38% of the men versus 62% of the women are awakened, again, a religious perspective, and that was put out by PEW research. Other than that, I really haven't found anything substantial. So this channel could be breaking new ground on understanding how men process a spiritual awakening differently than women, because there's definitely a difference. Awakened would be described as when an individual experiences a profound transformation in their life marked by a shift in perspectives and beliefs, often leading to a heightened sense of purpose. Does that sound familiar to you? Certainly is familiar to me. That's exactly what started happening. And I didn't realize it was an actual thing called the spiritual awakening. I just knew I was going through some changes. I didn't understand why or what kicked them off, but I was fully into it and didn't know what I was into. So if I had run across a channel that was dealing with men going through this process, it might have helped me a lot. As it is, there are quite a few YouTube channels that talk about a spiritual awakening. As soon as you learn that it's actually a thing and you can actually go look for information about it. But anyway, question could be, are you awakened? How do you know? Some thoughts on this are your intuition becomes stronger and you are more aware of your thoughts. I'd say that's true for me in my case. It's not the only thing, but that's definitely a factor in it. How do you start a spiritual awakening if you don't think you have and you want to start this process because you know there's more there somewhere? Some of the things I found when I looked this up were start examining your limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs, by the way, if you haven't really ever gotten into limiting beliefs, there are things that are usually put in our heads when we're really young. This is good, this is bad, things like that. You don't want to be doing this when you could be doing that. You don't want to be in jail. That's bad. You'd like to be out of jail. That's good. Not that that's a serious consideration when you're a kid, but kids understand the difference between those things, and we develop our beliefs really when we're young. Many of our beliefs, not all of them, they come later, but you have beliefs in politics. This particular political party is good. good, this particular political party's bad, for whatever reason. Usually it's not reasons that we have put in there for any specific thing. It's just something that was handed to us when we were too young to know the difference. Anyway, what's interesting about beliefs, so just a little side note here, is our bodies are subjected to, millions of bits of data every minute. And information comes in, through our ears, our eyes, senses, and our brain has to figure out how to process it all. One of the things it does is it sorts things out that don't need to be processed. And your brain uses limiting beliefs through your belief system. Your brain uses your belief system to help filter these things out. For example, if you were in favor of something in society, you believed in something in our society, and information came to you that supported that belief, then it would let that information through for you to acknowledge and process and think about. If the information coming in was in support of this thing that you, or not in support of this thing that you believe in, it would filter that out because you told your brain, look, this is one of my beliefs. Anything that supports that belief that comes in, I want to know about it. Contrarily, something that doesn't support that belief would not make it through the filter. It's called the articulating activation system in our brain. Would not make it through that filter. So you wouldn't even have an opportunity to evaluate something that was contrary to what you believe because you told your brain to filter it out. So if you don't have a belief about something, all the information will come through because it's not going to get caught up in this filter. So when you start examining your beliefs, understand that because you have a belief about something, it's going to preclude you from having additional information that might be very valid in reestablishing that belief or eliminating that belief. Just a little side note about that. It's a very important thing on how the brain works and how we process things in our society. So look at your limiting beliefs. Understand that maybe they're wrong. And this is one way you can start looking at things differently and start an awakening. You can also attend a workshop on spirituality or personal growth. It's sometimes a way to give yourself insights into who you are and starts you down a path of thinking about things differently. You can connect with nature. You can explore your mind with meditation. I highly recommend that. I highly recommend that. There are some great exercises that you can do daily that don't take much time. One of them is a very basic one. You can get up in the morning and as soon as you can, sit down in front of a candle and stare at a candle. You try and take all the extraneous things going through your mind and lump them into that candle and you say, I am not my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. There's all these things about how busy a day we have, things we have to get done, other things that we're thinking about. You want to separate those things from your mind so that you're an observer of all those thoughts. And one way to do it is to put them into that candle and say, all those thoughts are in that candle that I'm staring at. They're not in the space around it, and they're not in your space. You can concentrate on that. That will help you start to develop this awareness of the concept of duality. That will help you start to establish an awareness of this thing called duality, and that you are really an observer of what's going on around you in your day-to-day life. And a candle is a great way to do it. You just have to do it for 5 minutes or something like that, maybe 10. I've been doing it for quite a while now, and I usually make it to about 20 minutes because I'm incorporating a few other thoughts in there. Thoughts like practicing gratitude, kindness, compassion, open-heartedness. Those are high vibrational frequency thoughts. Those are the things we want to encourage in our mind. You could also read spiritual literature, things like that. But these things can start working you toward thinking about the types of concepts that move you down a pathway of having a spiritual awakening. I was already into it, but I was already starting to think these things before I realized that there was such a thing as a spiritual awakening. I think I mentioned that earlier in the video. Anyway, that's about all I have for this right now. It's just kind of a little short note on the difference between a spiritual experience and a spiritual awakening. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. If you'd like to subscribe and like this video, I would appreciate it, and that way you'll be notified when I have another one. Thank you. Have a great day.